What up, you old goobers? You saw the title, you read the thumbnail. Let's just get into it, guys. We have the article from Riot officially revealing the full set. Now, if you guys have been following along with me with the leaks, we've been following the leaks. There is not a whole lot of new information in here if you've been following the leaks. If you haven't been following the leaks, this is going to be awesome for you. But if you have been following the leaks, new stuff that we'll get in here is some new gameplay footage, so more gameplay, as well as a lot of new portals being revealed to us that hasn't been revealed through the leaks. So far, we don't have any more information on Legends or Augments, but this set will be on the PBE server within the next 48 hours of the time of me filming this video. So all will be revealed very, very, very soon. So we're going to go through this whole article. I don't know if I'm going to read it verbatim, but we're going to be going through it and showing some footage on screen. So make sure you stick around for the ride. Let's get into it. So we have a new trait called Bilgewater. Call upon the artillery with Bilgewater. Bilgewater champions apply a mark to enemies with their attacks and abilities. After a brief delay, cannon shots will strike marked enemies, dealing physical damage that increases the damage dealt to the marked enemy from Bilgewater units. As your crew expands, cannon shots will do more damage. And your crew can consist of Illaoi, Gangplank, TF, Nautilus, Misfortune, Nyla, and Gangplank, the Reaver King. And so we'll talk a little bit about Gangplank here. I'm going to be showing some gameplay on screen. But Gangplank, the Reaver King, his unique passive or unique thing with the Reaver King is that he can be equipped with a cutlass or a pistol. He is a gunner. His cutlass applies his burn passive. I think his gun also does as well. But whenever you equip his cutlass, which just means that you are in the first two rows, he will equip his cutlass. If he's in the back two rows, he will equip his pistol. If he's in the front two rows, he gains resist. So you can put him on your front line if you need more frontline on your team. Maybe itemize him with some tankier, like frontline 80 carry items, that sort of thing. He can go onto the front. But if he's on the back line, he will not deal any more true damage that scales with AD on his cutlass. He will just have his pistol, and he will just summon the giant pirate ship like Kunkka from Dota Auto Chess. It does not CC like Kunkka, but it just deals a lot of AP damage. So it just depends on what you need for your build, what you're going to have him play. If you want him to be like a backline AP carry, then you put, and you have items for that, like Sojin and that sort of thing. If you need more frontline, he will still deal AP damage with the ship. He will still cast the ship, but if you need more frontline, you want to put some tank items on him, you can probably put him on the front line and he'll be good to go. All right, next up we have Ixtal. Ixtal brings the Rise of the Elements into Horizon Bound. Ixtal units create different elemental hexes each game that empower units standing on them. Let's meet the denizens of Ixtal and then acquaint ourselves with their elemental power. So guys, if you guys played set 2, it's just the set 2 set mechanic is in this trait. So very, very, very cool. I love when they bring like old stuff from old sets and try to recreate them into the game, especially like set mechanics. Like I'm a big fan of them bringing hero augments into this set where it's like a very small portion of the game. I hated hero augments as a set mechanic. I thought it was complete garbage. But the elemental hexes were pretty solid as a set mechanic, and then coming back as a trait mechanic is very cool. So we have Milio, Kiana, and Nico. Nico is the tank of this build. She is a Bastion. Cool. And so we're just gonna have some gameplay play out of the effects. So let's talk about the effects here. So stone at the start of combat, empowered champions become immune to crowd control effects and reduce incoming damage by 20% for 8 seconds. So it's like having a QSS with a little bit of defensive stats on there as well. Bonus effect, empowered champions heal 550 on takedown. So I imagine if you have I guess if you have the 3 trait active, it gives you the bonus. Like, I'm not sure. We'll see when you play it. Maybe it's in this article. I glazed over it, but hey, we're going to be playing the game pretty soon. So ice, the first time each empowered champion is reduced below 30%. They are encased in protective ice, becoming untargetable, and healing for 30% of their max health over 2 seconds. Untargetable. Ew. I don't know if I like that. Bonus effect, upon freezing, adjacent enemies take 30% of their maximum health as magic damage. Electric, the first time an enemy takes damage from each empowered champion's ability, they are stunned for 2 seconds. Bonus effect, empowered champions can stun each enemy once every 6 seconds instead. Wood, empowered champions gain 10% max health at the start of combat. They also gain 20 permanent max health and grow in size. Oh, we all love growing in size. Bonus effect, every 4 seconds, empowered champions gain 15 ability power and 15% attack damage. Fire, damage from empowered champions' abilities set enemies on fire, dealing 45% of ability damage dealt as magic damage and burning them for 1% of their max HP each second. over 3 seconds. Bonus effect, fires deal 90% of ability damage dealt and 2% burn instead. Wind empowered champions gain 40% attack speed for 4 seconds at the start of combat and whenever they use their ability. Bonus effect, bonus attack speed stacks and last until the end of combat. And here's a dev note right here. Ixtal changed heavily in our final week of PvE. We were not able to show wind. Additionally, expect specific numbers to change heavily. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of things changed around this, especially with some of these effects. This is going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be messed up or messed around with imbalance on the PvE server for sure. All right, Vanquisher, which is kind of like Executioner of the past, if you guys have played that trait. So Vanquishers are the bane of frontliners. Their spells can critically strike without needing crit built on them. They have a bonus critical strike chance and damage. Both of these values increase as you hit your trait breakpoints. But the real kicker of the trait is the bonus true damage that Vanquishers do against enemies with 1600 health or more. So they have a built-in Giant Slayer mechanic. Let's see who's making the Vertical Bruiser player cry in the corner. I mean, guys, who's playing Vertical Bruisers? Let's be real. You know, we're going to have to test itemizations, but it's probably going to be like stuff like Hodge and Guardbreaker. Like Guardbreaker is probably gonna be like best in slot on a lot of these units for a lot of these sets. We'll see. We're gonna have to play test, and obviously that'll have to do with balance. But I can already see that those items will be very good because you just scale on top of the already existing crit chance, and that your abilities can already crit. So you'd want a little bit of bonus crit on top of that, but not an Infinity Edge. Probably that's how it's going to be done, but we'll see how it works out. Probably going to be builds like Guardbreaker plus Deathblade +1 for like Xayah, that sort of thing. But that's preliminary what I'm going to be trying on the first couple days. So we have Jhin, Ashe, Darius, Nyla, and Xayah are going to be our executioners. Cool. And we have a new skill set and that sort of thing. Yeah, so they're just talking about Jhin being moved over. Deadeye was removed from the game. It was a terrible, terrible, terrible trait. It was kind of cool, but like Deadeye's being removed because, like, guys, Aphelios didn't even need his Deadeye trait for like 90% of the set. You could forgo it if you wanted to. Like, Deadeye was nice to add on, but it was it did not work as a premier carry trait. So I'm really glad they're replacing it and moving some of the units around. Like Aphelios is being moved to Gunner, and Jhin is being moved to Executioner. So I do like that they move these things around, and Ashe as well, right? New 4 costs. So we have some new 4 costs. 4 costs are really like the heart of the set, usually. And first up, we have Silco. He's a Zaun sorcerer. So Silco is back to remind you that power, real power, doesn't come from those who are born the strongest or fastest or smartest. It comes from those who just hit. His new spell, Undercity Tactics, throws a vial at a nearby enemy, covering adjacent hexes in shimmer for a few seconds. Enemies in the contaminated zone take damage each second, while allies affected by shimmer heal each second. So he's kind of like subtle. Like, I think he's a premier carry, but he has like some support mechanics. He kind of reminds me of kind of like Renata. Renata was like had some support style mechanics, but she was mainly a carry, right? So I think I'll think about him the same way I thought about Renata, and we'll see what his build turns out to be. So Silco excels against and with melee heavy comps. So yeah, it's going to be like Renata Bruisers. It's going to be like that. Not sure what his build will actually be. Probably like Juggernauts, right? We'll see. But yeah, think about him like the same way you thought about Renata Bruisers if you played, was that set 6, set 6.5, something like that? Cool. So Nyla, the Bilgewater Vanquisher. You heard of like a knife through butter, but have you heard like a formless blade through water? Nyla's attacks strike in a cone, dealing AoE damage with her spell. Formless Blade allows her to don a shield and dive to a safe for her location, gaining attack and attack speed. So it's kind of like the set 7 version of Nyla, except for the set 7 version of Nyla, she dashed into the team. She will dash, I believe, the way I'm reading this and the way I've seen some of the gameplay, she will dash in a safe direction for her, a very small dash. So she can be crowd control and that sort of thing. So crowd controlling will be really good against her. And then like lifesteal are going to be really great on top of like BT, Hodge, those sort of things are going to be very great items. But hey, we're going to play test. Xayah is a strong, independent Vestae, and she doesn't need no Rakan. She doesn't need no man who's taken some time away from Rakan to wing it on her own. And I got to say, she's doing just fine with a new ability, Featherstorm, which calls feathers behind her target to converge, ripping through enemies, dealing physical damage and reducing armor. So we will not have to build a Last Whisper or I forget whatever new item they add that sunders for the front line. It will not be required. We'll see what her numbers are at. I can't imagine it's below 30% the armor shred. Maybe it's going to be a flat amount like Samira, and then like doing armor shred on top of it will be will be good. We'll see what the numbers are actually, but they are reducing armor shred or sundering down to 30% flat around the board. So I can't imagine if she has a percent base that it will be below 30%. So it'll probably be the same as Last Whisper. Or it could be a flat amount, in which case you can stack Last Whisper on top of it. So Xayah is a backliner with built-in armor reduction. She just needs the casting to pull it off. And yeah, her ability looks kind of a little underwhelming, honestly, when I'm looking at it. But we'll just have to play test to see how it goes. She looks pretty cool, though. Looks a lot cooler than Zeri. I love Xayah. Like, Xayah is one of my favorite characters in League. I think she's very, very, very cool. So I'm excited that she's back. Mordekaiser, another all-time favorite for a lot of players. Mordekaiser hits hard with his attacks that scale with AP. He hits even harder with his spell is active, granting him a shield and one more hex of range for a moderate duration. During this time, if he kills an enemy, he'll steal AD, AP, armor, MR, and health from that target for the rest of combat. So he's kind of like a combination of his, I forget what set this was, but whenever he was a Dragon Slayer, it must have been set 7, right? It's like a combination of him and Dragon Slayer Trundle. I don't know if that was from the same set, but you guys remember the Trundle that would suck him off? So he sucks him off and he bonks him. So it's kind of like a combination of both of those. We'll see how this goes. This unit is going to need a lot of testing. Melee carries always need a whole lot of testing, especially ones like Mordekaiser. Like Nyla is a little bit more simpler. This one is going to take a lot of testing to figure out what we want to do and how to itemize him. But next up, we have Fiora. And this is just Fiora from Set 6, guys. So if you played Set 6, it's the exact same thing. A fan favorite from Gizmos and Gadgets, Fiora has graduated from the Academy of Fencing and is here to bring honor to the Laurent family. By defeating any challenger in her way, her ability Blade Waltz will make her untargetable as she strikes at her target's vitals. Each strike deals physical damage, scaling with AD and bonus true damage with AP. She also heals for a small portion of the damage dealt. And if her target dies, which they will, she'll change targets to nearby enemies. So she is replacing Yasuo. So the challengers will still have Kai'Sa and Fiora. Honestly, doesn't it just make the build exactly the same except for you're playing around Demasias now? So her best in slot is going to be exactly the same as Yasuo's best in slot. Like, just think about her as Yasuo, and that's how you're probably going to build her. Except for that she is a Demasian, so you'll need to consider running Demasians, right? And like running Radiant item on her or not, or running Radiant item on, I think Jarvan is still in the set. So, yeah, so just think about her the same way you're thinking about Yasuo if you guys have never played this version of Fiora, and you'll be good to go. You'll have a little bit of a head start. Okay, so first-timers, Milio and Naafiri. A big welcome to the convergence for Milio and Naafiri, whose first time in TFT puts him at the core of reroll comps, Ixtal comps, and late-game Dark and Aatrox splashes. At one cost, we have Milio. He is an Invoker and an Ixtal. Is a great holder for AP items and a useful source of CC in the late game. Also, it's just like, it's really good to have like CC units in the early game are very valuable, especially like early and mid game. So he will probably be a unit that you keep on your board for a while and will consistently give you value as long as he is, as long as he isn't like garbage, as long as his numbers aren't garbage. Milio and his trait also just give any low cost reroll comp a good kick by allowing you the empower one cost carries with the elements of Ixtal and the good attitude of Milio. He's just a good little boy. But the real king/queen of the reroll is Naafiri, Challenger, Darkin, Shurima, who will lead the pack on her own reroll comp. I've dubbed it "Who Let the Dogs Out." Okay, so we're gonna have so they're already introducing these. They're designed specifically for reroll comps, so we'll see how it goes. All right, next up we have our region portals, and so we have Bilgewater. So Bilgewater is a new portal system. So round 3, this is Finn's Market. Round 3-7 is replaced by a visit to Bilgewater trader Finn, who will stock either completed, artifact, support, or radiant items. You can choose one to keep for free, and more on items later in the article if any of that sentence confused you. Slaughter Docks. At the Slaughter Docks, that's a cool name. You'll gain a free shop reroll equal to the stage number +1 at the start of each stage. It's kind of like Lee Sin's prismatic augment, not quite because that has to do with leveling, but it's kind of like that augment. These only last for the round you get them, so star up your units and polish off those comps. Rat Town is nicer than the name suggests, but not by much. Starting at stage 2, lucky shops can appear randomly at the start of each round. Start of a round once per stage. These shops feature units tailored to your army's active traits. There's no discount here, but you'll save a heck of a lot of rerolls. So it's kind of like a dreaming pool a little bit, except for it's featured in your shop, right? Rise, Realm Warp, Bilgewater. So this is the Rise change for this one. Traveling to a new region means there is all new Rise spell, and Bilgewater Rise creates a portal summoning a giant treasure chest to fall from the sky in the largest cluster of enemies, dealing magic damage to enemies within 2 hexes. The size of the chest is increased by the gold that you have. Oh, nice. So it's kind of like it's kind of a mixture of Zon and the Shurima one, because each enemy hit has a chance to drop loot, a chance to drop gold. When the ability kills a foe, this chance is higher because of Bilgewater. That just makes sense. Yeah. So it's like combining both of those. That's interesting, and I don't think they're changing those other ones. So there'll be 2 econ based Rise abilities. That's interesting, and this one's going to be much worse than the unless it's like OP. It's going to be much worse than the Shurima version, because Shurima version offers CC. This is just damage, I believe. So interesting. So here's the region portals for Ixtal. We have Serpentine River. Get those just chatting fingers ready for this one. Instead of carousel rounds, vote for what bonus the lobby should get. Get a component anvil after each voting round. There's going to be a lot more voting rounds in the game. We'll have to see how that one works out in real time. That's kind of, I don't really glean much from reading that sentence. Ixtal, I don't know how to say this. With this portal, everyone loves a reroll player. Each time players star up 20 times. So players, that means like the whole lobby stars up 20 times cumulatively. Whatever. All players gain increasingly valuable loot. So it's not like you don't have to star up 20 units. It's just once the whole lobby hits it. So yeah, if there's rerollers in the lobby, we will hit this earlier in the game. With so much variance in TFT, this is Cardinal Arcology. We've seen a desire for simple portals, prismatic augments like Jace's Workshop, the University are 2 of the most selected portals. So instead of adding another wild Ixtal experiment, we're giving players what they want, which is this portal will offer a prismatic gold silver augment. It's just I think it'll be in that order. So it's just very simple. You know exactly what you get that game. And then we have the Rise Realm Wart for Ixtal. In Ixtal, Rise will cover the ground in thicket of vines around his current target. After a brief delay, he'll deal magic damage to enemies within and knock up enemies in the epicenter of the entanglement. Allies that are wrapped in the vines will gain armor and magic resist for a short duration. So it's essentially just Zyra's ultimate, except for you gain armor and magic resist for your team. Very, very, very cool. And we have some updates to Freljord. So we have Valor's Hollow. In Valor's Hollow, you'll gain an item anvil on 2/3 and a support anvil on 3/3. What is a support anvil? Read more to find out. Yeah. So as I talked about earlier, we will find more about item updates. So I'll actually read this little explanation of changing the items, because I actually have some thoughts on this, and I'll probably get my thoughts later, because I've seen some discourse going around about this, how the items have been dumbed down, and I don't necessarily agree with that take, and I'll offer my take on the items later. So Horizon Bound has us looking to the future of TFT by adding 2 beloved regions and a number of new champions to the most beloved sets. But with Horizon Bound, we're not just focused on the mid set. We're making huge quality of life changes to our item system that will leave it in a better state for many sets to come. That includes 6 new items, 3 adjusted items, a new support item class, an update to artifact items previously Orange Forge. But before I get too carried away, I'm going to let Riot True see. Okay, so why are we changing the items? Items are the most important way to power up champions in TFT. One of the most satisfying experience is getting the perfect components to finalize your carries builds. On the flip side, every TFT player has experienced getting Mortdogged, unlucky with components, and being unable to build any items for the champions they want to play. True. One of the biggest obstacles for these are more supportive items like Zephyr, Zeke's Herald. While these items are incredibly powerful later in the game, they're not that attractive on stage 2 or 3, which make a lot of recipes unappealing belt cloak tier openers. True. In Horizon Bound, we're moving supportive items into an uncraftable category, filling in the recipes with some new toys and a power-up variety of champions. Here are 2 primary goals of Horizon Bound's item rework: make item categorization easier to understand, give each class champions a variety of viable items to build that offer broad ranges of stats. This is exactly my take on this, and this is like when I saw the items, this is exactly what I thought. I said, oh wow, this is going to give a variety of viable items to multiple carries. So for example, this is how I feel about this. For example, if you play Azir, you have to have Rage Blade on Azir, or you need like pumping up or something like that. Like just there are some small circumstances where you don't have to have it, but like let's just be real. If you don't have Rage Blade and you're playing Aphelios, Zeri, or Azir, you are playing at a massive disadvantage, right? And so what they're trying to do with these new items is give items that you can play on those carries that still make those carries playable they'll still have their best in slot, but it still makes them, like, it makes it viable. Like, you won't be in a situation where you just can't get a bow. Like, you just can't get a bow plus rod. Like, sometimes that just happens, man. And you just can't do that. So you instead build bow plus belt. And that makes, I believe that makes a Gnasher's Tooth. We'll see the item recipes. Maybe we'll see the item recipes in a second. And that makes it playable, right? That makes it playable to play Azir or whatever. Or like maybe you have to build that on Aphelios. So what I mean by this is a lot of people have said they're just dumbing down items. They're making it where you can build whatever item you want. That is not true. Like, you can build whatever item you want, but they'll have different degrees of efficiencies. So like, let's say, and I'm just making up numbers here. Let's say Rageblade is 100% effective on Aphelios. That's like his best in slot. That's what you want on him. But let's say you can't build that, and you have to build RFC, or you have to build, which is double bow item. So I don't think that's a good solution. But let's say you can't get the rod for whatever reason. Maybe AP is super meta, right? And then you build the Gnasher's Tooth. Gnasher's Tooth is not super great on Aphelios, but what if it's like 85% as effective? And that still makes that build playable in a lot of spots, right? And so that's the goal that they're trying to do this. The same thing with, there's a new mana gain item that is flexible between tanks and backline. I think it's the recipe for ice cream, for the old ice cream cone. And so like, if you start the game with Cloak tier, you're not going to feel super bad about the game. Whereas like, if you started the game with Sword tier, you start the game with a Sojin, you already have clear direction, right? But you can build the Cloak tier item and you don't have to worry about like saving your tier the whole game to try to get blue buff or Sojin for your AP line that you're trying to play. You can just build that. You can just build that item. And like, let's say that item gives you 85% effectiveness on, I don't even know if Lux is still in the set, but let's say it's like 85% as effective on Lux. Sojin is 80% effective on Lux, and blue buff is 100% effective on Lux. I think that's great for the game. I think that makes it actually easier to flex play, makes it easier to slam items, makes the variance a lot lower, and I think adds actually a lot of skill expression into the game. A lot of people have said this is dumbing down the item system because now you can build whatever item. I just don't believe that's true. I think you can build whatever item you want, and if these are balanced, then you will find that items still have varying, like a large amount of variance of efficiencies, but it's trying to make the variance smaller. Because like the difference between having Rageblade on Aphelios versus not having Rageblade on Aphelios is like night and day. Like, you can't play the build in most in the vast majority of situations. Obviously, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic here, but that's how I feel about the item. So I vehemently disagree with people saying that the item system has been dumbed down, that it's become bland and boring. Maybe it has become bland and boring. I don't know. Like, maybe that has become bland and boring some aspect, but I think for players playing at the higher levels of play, I think a lot of people are going to like that more builds open up with different item sets, that you don't always have to have best in slot. It's very frustrating in this current set. If you don't have a Rageblade, or you don't have a Last Whisper in the recent metas right now, if you don't have very specific items on very specific builds, they honestly feel very unplayable. And so that's what they're trying to fix, and I'm a huge fan. So item categories, we have core items. These are standard craftable items made from the base components. Each of these will focus on powering up the holder in exciting ways. So this is exactly what we already know. Core items, that's the items that we build, right? Radiant items are just the upgraded core items. We all know this. Artifacts, previously called Ornn artifacts. So this makes me think that Ornn is not going to be in the new set, because they keep making it clear, like, hey, artifacts are its own thing, has nothing to do with Ornn. So that's kind of interesting. These are uncraftable items, powerful combination synergies like Mana Zane, Trickster's Glass. Yeah, so a lot of the returning Ornn items will be the same, but there's a lot of new Ornn items as well. Support items, our new item class containing uncraftable items, focus on providing team-wide support and non-selfish outputs. These will include our old items such as Shroud of Stillness, Locket of the Iron Sawari, but also will contain a plethora of new items to fill in the missing pieces for your teams. All support items will have a uniform 250 health and will be much more powerful than their core item versions. We're also taking this time to make it so Shroud of Stillness and Zephyr can no longer be equipped during combat. Drats. This is actually not true. This is outdated. Mortdog wrote on Twitter today saying they have removed this, so you can still slam Shroud of Stillness and Zephyr during combat if you do receive this from the support items. And the reason why they're doing this is because they found that people just forget to equip it, and it really messes you up. And that is probably just because our learned behavior of playing this game for several years. I think this could be in the game like this if it had started this way. And maybe they'll do this like at like maybe they'll do this in set 10. Like, I think this could be good for the game. It's just the learned behavior that we've been playing the game for so long. It's going to be difficult to unlearn that behavior. And so there's a lot of growing pains here. So they're just not going to try this right now. So you can still equip Shroud of Stillness and Zephyr during combat. You can item remove and do that stuff. You can still do that. So this is untrue. Okay, that could change though. Let's see. More item combination for more classes. So with Horizon Bound's new craftable items, players should be able to find a buildable item combination to power up their tanks, carries, supports, and from a variety of component combinations. This is exactly what I'm talking about, guys. Like, this is exactly how I feel like when you start the game and you have to play around a cloak in the current set or any set, unless it's like a set where Jax is OP or like AD carries, like frontline AD carries are OP, then Cloak's actually a good item. But for the vast majority of TFT, like, you would feel so much better if we're in an AD meta starting the game with a bow, wouldn't you? Like, the game is so much easier. Or if we're in an AP meta starting the game with playing around a tier, it's so much easier. It's so much easier than playing the game starting with like a chain or a defensive component, right? But what they're trying to do with these core items is make it to where you can actually slam items that give you some direction and you don't have to feel really bad about it. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. If you start with a tier Negatron Cloak, you can gain an adaptive helm and you can actually slam this item because what you gain from it is 15 mana, 30 MR. Combat start, the holder gains bonus stats based on their starting position. So if you're in the front 2 rows, it'll give you 15 ability power and 25 armor and magic resist. In the back 2 rows, you gain 15 ability power and gain 15 mana every 3 seconds. So theoretically, you could slam this on your tank in the early game, and let's say you get no more tier items the rest of the game, and you end up playing AP. Then you can put this on your backline carry, like for your mana gain item on like Lux or whatever. Like, I don't even know if Lux is in the set, but so it adds an ability for you to play the comp. Now, if you end up slamming this in the early game because you start the game with tier Cloak and then you start getting dropped a bunch of AD items, it's fine because this goes on your front line. Most tanks are AP scaling. Think like Sejuani, Shin, Taric. Those are AP tanks, right? So it actually allows you to feel like the game isn't just like fucking you in the ass with your item start. That's what I really like about this. But I know, some people think this is going to add a boring layer to the game. Maybe. But I think this is extremely, extremely good for skill expression. At least on the outset right here. We'll have to see after playtest. But I think it is good for. I think this is a great change for skill expression. Honestly, I completely disagree with people saying this is making the item system easier. I think it adds a lot more nuance to the item system. Actually, Gnasher's Tooth. I mean, what's hard about just slamming Rageblade Last Whisper? What's hard about that? Okay, I'm building Rageblade Last Whisper. Cool. I'm playing an AD comp. Like, what's hard about that? I don't understand I really don't understand where people are coming with the dumbing down of the system. Okay, Gnasher's Tooth, Recurve Bow, Giant Slayer. So 30 AP, 10% attack speed, 150 health. Maybe I'm going a little bit too hard on this, but like, I really feel strongly about this. After casting a spell, gain 40% attack speed for 5 seconds. Gnasher's Tooth is an interesting item that has many cases, best for champions that take full advantage of enhanced attack speed, time window, and Gnasher's Tooth. So think like Azir. This is an item specifically built for Azir, right? So maybe this is the best item to play on Azir now. And then alternatively, maybe Rageblade is like 90% of effective. I think you'll actually build both of the items. I think you'll go Gnasher's and Rageblade. I think that'll be a really good build, actually. But we'll see how that goes. But it allows you to play. It like really opens up build paths. That's what I'm trying to say here. And like, you could even play this on a Felio. It's like if you're really low rolling, right, and you just can't get your Rageblade or whatever, and like, let's say Rageblade is still the best item on him next set, like, and you have to build this, like, maybe this is enough to like get your top 4, right? So like, that's what I really like about the new item system. All right, Evan Shroud, Negatron Cloak, and Giant's Belt. You gain 150 health, 20 MR, and this is a Sunder. So this is like AD Ionic Spark. So finally we have an AD equivalent to Ionic Spark, and I think this is amazing because this shores up the one problem with AD itemizations is they do not have an alternative to Last Whisper. And anytime we're in a Bastion, like a frontline resist tank meta, anytime we're in those metas, if you do not have a bow glove, you are fucked. You are fucked. And so this fixed that system. Like, this is why I feel so strongly about this stuff, because like, everyone knows what it's like to play AD. You're having a great game, and then you just can't get your bow. You can't get your cloak. Or, I mean, not your cloak. You can't get your glove, man. Like, what is happening? I just can't get the one glove. I can't get the bow. And your game is just over. It's Jover. And, like, you're just low rolling all your item components at the end of the game. and you open up the anvil and it still doesn't have what you need. Like, it just really fixes that problem. I feel very strongly about this. Okay, anyways. And then we have Crown's Guard, Needlessly Large Rod, and Chain Vest. 15 AP, 30 armor. Combat start, gain a shield equal to 35% of your maximum health for 8 seconds. When the shield breaks or expires, gain 40 additional ability power. So this is going to be really good on AP tanks. Think like someone like Swain. This would be a great item on Swain, right? Because you gain 30, like especially if he is in his big form, right? So this can be great on AP tanks, or just like any tanks like Sejuani, Shin, that sort of thing. I don't know if Sejuani's still in the game. I think she is. I think Lysandra got removed, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Sterix Gauge, BF Sword, and Giant's Belt. 300 health, 20% AD. Once per combat at 50% health. Increase max health by 25% and gain 30% AD for the rest of combat. So this is going to be great on frontline AD carries. And it says right here, think about Darius. Think about Garen. I'm not sure if Garen is still in the game. Think about Nasus. Think about Cassante. Think about, I mean, he doesn't really use AD, but he can use the shield, right? Think about Nyla. This is probably good on Nyla if you go like BT Titan Sterix. Like, that could totally be a build, right? All right, Night Harvester, Sparring Gloves, and Chain Vest. AP 25 AP, 25 armor, and 20% crit chance. And then a bonus effect here, deal 15% bonus damage increased by 15% when below 60% maximum health. So this is going to be great comboed with a Jeweled Gauntlet. This is going to be great on AP Assassins. So yeah, great on AP Assassins. And then also a playable item on backline AP carries. It's not going to be super great, but it can be a playable item to increase your damage, especially comboed with items like Zonya's or something like that. If you go below that, I believe Zonya's triggers below that threshold. I could be misremembering, but could be a good combo with something like Zonya's, and you go below that threshold and then you increase your damage. That could be interesting to do. But anyways, guys, this is pretty much it with the whole article. I'm really excited about this. Really excited to see what legends are returning and augments, as well, as we did not receive that information here. But yeah, guys, the biggest thing I'm excited about is the item rework, and that's why I just kind of went on a little bit of a tirade there, because I've seen a lot of negative stuff around it, and I just don't believe. I just completely disagree with the negative feedback about the rework to the item system. I mean, like, the only part where I can see where anybody has anything to, like, anything, the only part that I see that is valid is, like, perhaps it makes the game, like, you know, when you have so many items that just, like, give a lot of stats, like, not every item, but, like, it takes away the uniqueness of item slams, because, like, the variance between items are not as much anymore. Like, I guess, but I don't know. That's just not how I look at the game at all. And the items have felt extremely painful in a lot of the previous sets. Like, items have been a big reason for my personal, like, non-enjoyment of the game a lot of times. It was when you're, like, everybody knows those situations where you just can't get your shred, you can't get your rage blade, you can't get your whatever item, right? You can't get, like everyone knows that feeling. And they're reducing the amount of variance. That's what their goal is, to reduce the amount of variance, reduce the amount of pain when you don't get exactly the items that you need. There are items that you can play, like Nashor's Tooth is an acceptable replacement for something like Rageblade, right? The Adaptive Helm is an acceptable replacement for Blue Buff, right? It's not going to be as good, but it's acceptable. Which I think is in a lot of situations. It'll probably be better on some people. We'll see how it goes. But anyways, guys, that is it with the update, and I'm really excited about the new set. Guys, hey, check out my stream. It's in the bottom left corner. Check it out, guys. Click the link in the pinned comment, because we're going to be playing some PvE this week. I'm going to be very busy tomorrow, so maybe I won't be streaming the first day of the PvE cycle, but we'll be trying to stream as much as we can. And if you guys want to play with me, I play with viewers, especially the first week of the PvE cycle. So anyways, that's it for me. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.